In this video, I'm going to be reacting to the training methods of Manny Pacquiao. So we're starting off with this incredible strength exercise, single arm core holds on a Swiss ball. Now this is something that was shared quite a lot on social media, and it's fantastic exercise for the core muscles, in particular the obliques, and also working boxer's muscle, the serratus anterior. This is probably why Pacquiao is so well developed in this area. This exercise takes a lot of strength and stability through the upper limb, the shoulder stability, obviously serratus anterior strength and activation, and strength through the obliques and core. This is quite difficult to do. So if you're trying to do this for the first time, literally just start off on a bench and then work towards what we normally do is on a medicine ball. We normally start off with a long levered plank where we do 2 arms and then progress to single arm hold. We want to be working towards 20 to 30 seconds on each side. Quite difficult at the start. Take your feet quite wide. You can see Pacquiao here, he's got his feet quite wide. He's got a wide base of support. If you're finding it quite easy, take them feet in. So then you're challenging the core a little bit more before trying this with a Swiss ball. Obviously with the Swiss ball being an inflatable ball, this creates a lot of stability challenges. So great exercise to use, really impressive, but try the regressions first to make it more achievable, but also you know that you're optimizing the activation of the correct muscle groups that you're wanting to target. Pacquiao had probably the fastest feet in boxing for a certain time and were really effective when he was stepping up in weight, when he was working against taller opposition with longer reach. He needed to work in and out of range, he needed to feint to get his way in. It's really important that he worked on his calf conditioning and his agility. And he does a lot of agility footwork drills. You can see here, he's doing a range of different things, working in and out, very sub-maximal plyometric work, very, very short ground contact time, then can transfer into fast dynamic footwork and also powerful punches as well. Agility footwork, it gets a lot of bad flack, especially in athletic populations, but if you look at it as a physical preparation exercise rather than a sport-specific exercise, then you can see a lot of benefits here. He's doing like some crisscross jumps with a med ball. That's probably a good way to try and activate the core whilst doing plyometrics. But then he goes on to some hurdles, more intensive. He loses that short ground contact time. So you're wanting to try and minimize this to 200 milliseconds. Agility ladders, you're wanting to try and probably minimize this under 150 milliseconds. You can see here that his feet are a little bit more planted when it goes a little bit more intensive. So it's important when you're doing plyometric exercises and doing this kind of plyometric exercises, you're trying to minimize the ground contact time to as short as possible. So we've got some overhead rotations here. Again, this is exercise for the serratus anterior, looking at thoracic extension, great for shoulder health as well. Not a great strength exercise. And also there's a lot of trunk flexion and extension to get that range. Get a good relationship with the floor, really push your feet into the floor, try and keep your hips fixed in position, and then try and perform this action. If struggling with that, regress to a seated position where you can really control working it overhead without any changes in posture. So we've got Pacquiao here doing some box jumps. Now box jumps, fantastic exercise to improve lower body speed and power. And we're looking to optimize the recruitment from the hamstrings, quads and glutes to really fire up hip extension to then transfer that towards a punching action. There's a range of different box jumps that you can do. Mainly that's what I'd go for in terms of like optimizing that hip extension. But there's also ones that you can do depth jumps, doing short ground contact time work. That's really training the calves. A lot of boxers end up getting stuck in no man's land with this because they just try and jump onto the box as high a box as possible. They look to try and run up, bounce from the feet, and then jump onto the box, and also not optimizing that hip extension. You can see that Pacquiao is doing this here. So he actually steps in, have really short ground contact time, so it's not really loading up the hips. He's also going in a little bit of a split stance as well because he's like just trying to run at it and try and jump as high as he can. He's also not getting full hip extension as he's trying to jump as high as he can. Yeah, even though that this is a really important exercise, you need to make sure that you're controlling this. So stand up to the box, start from a standing position, make sure that you're loading up the hips, bending the knees, and driving up into that powerful hip extension. Start on the box quite low and then start to progress it but making sure that you optimize that hip extension whilst doing box jumps. Okay, so we've got some med ball chest pass action going off here. Fantastic exercise for upper body speed and power. Pacquiao here is having his feet elevated, which is good. Normally I'd go from the floor, but if an athlete is flaring up his rib cage, I'd be looking to try and keep the feet up as well, maintain that core tension, that lower back against the floor. What's really good about this is two things. One, we've got his strength and conditioning coach on the bench, creating him a bit of a target to create speed and intent during the throw. But also the medicine ball looks quite heavy. A lot of boxers, when doing upper body med ball chest pass, often underload this action. They're a little bit in no man's land because they're not getting the optimal speed from it. And without that load, we're not optimizing momentum from it. Now, momentum is a huge factor in producing punch power, and that is optimizing the speed and the load that you're lifting. We did a little bit of a case study at Boxing Science using the Output Sports device, look at peak velocity at different loads. And what we found was the heavier that we went, the more momentum that we created. There wasn't like a real drop off after 12 kilos. What we needed to do is find a way to increase the load without reducing speed. And what we did was add a band to it. So we do all of our chest pass throws now with a light resistance band around the back. And what we find that this increases the weight load by 7.5 kilos. This actually increases the momentum quite significantly because the speed doesn't actually drop off. This is a fantastic way to use these med ball chest passes, but making sure that we're optimizing the adaptation of upper body power, but most importantly, upper body momentum. Pacquiao's calves were insane, unbelievable. You don't really see many boxers with calves like that, and to be as powerful as he was as well. This is done through hours and hours of skipping, submaximal plyometrics. This really paid off in terms of his footwork, his dynamic footwork, and also his punch power as well. This exercise here, just on the curb side, fantastic preparation tool, submaximal plyometrics. You can try and intensify this by doing it on a small box and looking to try and gain as much momentum through an arm swing as well. So this is exercise that we often do before our sprinting sessions to prepare that calf complex, the Achilles tendon for high-speed running actions. Something like this on the curb, just looking for them submaximal plyometric actions, looking to try and minimize that foot contact time, which can then transfer into increases in reactive strength index. Pacquiao is doing some like standing kind of punching rotation work, not really optimizing anything here, not optimizing that kinetic chain sequencing from foot through to fist. The weight looks relatively low. The main thing with rotational work is that we're wanting to optimize the isometric tension and rotational strength element, but then for power work, we're wanting to overload that eccentric action because then this transfers into combination punching. We want to improve the stretch shortening cycle of the core muscles. So we want to overload the eccentric to then transfer into powerful concentric action. If you don't control this eccentric action, what will happen is that you might over rotate, or you might not be able to produce as much power in your combination punching. So when doing rotational power work, we make sure that we're trying to overload that eccentric by throwing the ball into the athlete to then control, then reproduce force. If an athlete's on their own doing it, look to try and start from the opposite hip, go to rear hip, and then throw the action. You can see here with Pacquiao, not really getting that eccentric loading. This exercise isn't really doing that much. So we've got this infamous clip of Pacquiao using sticks to increase the pain threshold, particularly through the core. A lot of kind of boxing, MMA athletes do this kind of thing. There is some evidence that suggests that this kind of training helps increase people like in MMA or Thai boxing or kickboxing or something like that. Something like this is very like kind of technical based rather than like strength and conditioning, but it's probably more useful in them sports like around the shins. I can't imagine taking a kick to the shin and how painful that is and how conditioned that you'd have to be able to do that. But for boxing, I don't see a real benefit of doing this. Your timing and anticipation of taking the body shot is always the ones that you don't see that hurt the most. But really, it's about how you condition your body, how fit you are, how you make the weight. So if you drain yourself to make weight and then you get into the ring, you're not going to take them body shots as well. So you can do all the stick training that you want. If you train yourself during training camp, train yourself to the weight cut, and then you get back into the ring, then body shots are going to have a big effect. So I don't really do this with any of the boxing science athletes, probably a little bit of a placebo effect. There's a lot of things like analgesic effects that can help reduce pain, but it won't really help you take body shots better. Med ball slam into a burpee. Absolutely love this exercise as a conditioning tool, a part of our circuits. You've got the speed and intent of the med ball slam going into a very fast and forceful action again into the burpee. Because these are fast and dynamic and forceful exercises, recruiting a lot of muscles at the same time can elevate your heart rate and also elevate muscular acidosis, which makes it a fantastic tool if you're looking for high intensity adaptations in terms of improving your red zone conditioning or improving power endurance. So you want to get the ball, drive it overhead, and then slam it down, but maintain that posture as you come down. And then you flow into that burpee position, and then you stand up, and then you get the partner to pass you the ball back. And you want to be doing anywhere between 20 and 30 seconds on this. You don't want to be doing anything more than 30 seconds because you can end up losing that posture and also that speed and intent, and this might affect your heart rate response. If you're starting this for the first time, 6 to 20 seconds, you want to be working towards a rep every 2 seconds. So if you do 20 seconds, obviously you want to be doing 10 reps. So there's a little challenge for you if you're incorporating this into your circuits. Now, Pacquiao here is slamming this ball and keeping hold of it and slamming down into a punch bag. Because he's not slamming and releasing, he's having to go into that deep squat position where he's losing a bit of posture. So this is why at Boxing Science, we do it with either a slam ball or heavy medicine ball. It doesn't bounce back up into the face. And also we catch the ball and pass it back to the partner whilst they do the burpee. A great exercise to use, very beneficial when you're doing your red zone circuits. This video that I've got up here is 10 minutes long and he's just doing abs all the time. Predominantly trunk flexion. Recent research that we're doing, and this is going to be published really soon, is that the biggest contributor towards punch is rotational strength. In this ab routine, it's just literally trunk flexion all the time and not maximizing that rotation. And also, there's a lot of time under tension, a lot of fatigue that is going to be taken into his next session. And also, a lot of trunk flexion in terms of kyphosis through the upper back. So often what I get on these videos is that it's working for them. You know, Pacquiao's an 8-weight world champion, legend of the sport. You've got to remember that he still had injuries. He had a shoulder surgery after the Mayweather fight. Stuff like this will contribute towards shoulder injuries. Even though it's not working the shoulders, it's working into like kind of like trunk flexion position, which creates kyphosis, which increases internal rotation in the humeral head, increases that strain on the shoulder joints. It's not getting that intensity there. And we've found that in the research I was mentioning, we're looking at maximal strength from the core. So we need to make sure that the intensity is there through isometrics and also through higher loads and less volume. The maximum volume that we go to at Boxing Science is something like 250 reps with minimum of 150 reps in total volume over that session. And this is gone into around about 4 or 5 different exercises, a part of your strength and conditioning workout. Also categorizing these into 10 reps, 10 to 12 reps, 3 to 4 sets, and categorizing these into different sections to make sure that we're targeting all different aspects of the core. That's anti-extension, hip flexion with neutral spine, anti-rotation, and anti-lateral flexion. So this is really important for your core training to make sure that you're hitting the 4 pillars, to make sure that you're getting the right intensity, and also make sure that you get the right volume as well to create strength adaptations through the core, but not doing too much where you might end up fatiguing and creating muscular imbalances lead into injuries. So that's the end of this episode of Boxing Science Reacts. Thank you very much for watching. Really enjoyed looking at Pacquiao's training routines. A fantastic athlete, an amazing career. And like I said before, some of them videos is what actually got me into wanting to be a boxing strength and conditioning coach. So I've got a lot to owe to these routines of Pacquiao and what Alex Ariza did back in early 2010s. Thank you very much for watching. If not subscribed yet, hit that subscribe button so don't miss out on any future content. Got a range of different Boxing Science Reacts videos, including Crawford, Davis, Canelo, Golovkin, Mayweather, and plenty more. So go check out the Boxing Science YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. If you're wanting to find out more about our training methods, you can go and check out the Boxing Science website, boxingscience.co.uk, where you can get 50% off your first purchase. That's ebooks from strength and conditioning, high intensity conditioning, and also nutrition plans. You can get 50% off, or you can look at our Train Like a Champion membership, where you can follow the blueprint to elite performance for just £19.99 a month. Hopefully see you on the next video of Boxing Science Reacts.